Marketing as a Foreign Language, episode 328. Backstage, I had the pleasure of chatting with the one and only Sullivan. Did you know that he's doing over $9 million? $9 million in his golf business. And they do very few left-handed clubs. Why do they get so much hate from people that are left-handed? It's hard to run a golf business, is what I'm saying, but he does it with such grace and finesse. It's going to blow your mind. It would be one thing if he just had the one company, you know what I mean? That you kind of go, okay, you got lucky, Tyler. I'm not going to give you the benefit of the doubt. I'm going to judge you. But he also launched an email marketing company with a ton of clients over $1 million. So he's got that entrepreneurial spirit. You know what I'm saying? And so we're going to learn a ton from our guest today. Stay tuned. 3, 2, 1. Welcome to the show. Hit the confetti cannons. I got a fog machine. It's Sullivan.
Wow. Best intro ever, dude. I've done, I think, almost 100 podcasts. It's number one.
Let's go. So, yeah, dude, it's pretty incredible. I mean, it's kind of the American dream, isn't it? You got 2 kids, so you're doing dad vibes. And
oh, yeah.
And did you say you got let go of a job?
Yeah, I'm an accidental entrepreneur, 100%. I didn't set out hey, I'm going to go sell 600 to 70,000 golf clubs and make a ton of money. I had a full day job and it was a passion side hustle. And I was fired the week before Thanksgiving, and we just found out my wife was pregnant. So that will really change your perspective on things. You know what I mean?
Oh my goodness. It's one of those things where on the one hand, we often talk about how the universe is somehow perfect because it teaches, and it's this incredible sort of curriculum that we're all inside of. But that if you live in that space, you lose compassion, right? Because someone trips and you go, oh, karma. You know what I mean? And that's not very nice. So you got to live in those two worlds simultaneously. And it's funny because when you mentioned, my wife was pregnant, I smile because I know how the story ends.
Yes, at the time no one was smiling. She did support me, and I was pleasantly surprised when I came home, 3 hours early from work. And she's like, "What are you doing home?" I'm like, "Well, I was fired." And she goes, her first thing was like, "Are you going to make BombTech work or not?" And was supported in a supportive way. And it was probably the hardest year of our life. Having a newborn, taking a side hustle, trying to make it full time. But for me, it was the pressure I needed to do it. Would I do it over again in that way? Maybe not. But if that never happened, maybe it would never have grown and be what it is. So it all, to your point, it all happens for a reason. That was just my path.
Yeah, it is. It's like I often make the analogy of Mario. So there is no best way to play Super Mario Brothers. You know what I mean? You incarnate as Mario. You're like, I guess I'm Mario now, and you're running around. And you could literally just sit there and drain the clock and die. You could jump in a hole and die. You could rescue the princess and die. You're gonna die, right? And then you're gonna, and in the Hindu and Buddhist traditions, you're gonna die a lot. It's not like once or twice. It's hundreds of thousands of times is the idea. But I find it so fascinating because the design of the game that you're playing does things like this, and it happens to everybody, and there's no avoiding it. And we like to go, oh, let's celebrate the entrepreneur who's doing 9 million in gross revenue a year, right? And those, but there are people who spiritually get there too. Does that make sense? They lose their parents. This horrifying thing happens, and they don't make some large amount of money as sort of a whatever as a consequence of that, but they grow incredibly too. Does that make sense? So let's put the money aside for a second, and let's talk about your heart, your compassion, you as an individual. How has that changed in this?
Well, I think my start was never about the money. So I think if I started to make money, it would have never happened. I mean, I was a golfer, addicted to the game. I was trying to compete in the home run derby of golf, which is you just try to hit the ball as far as you can. And I had this local guy building me these really weird combinations of golf drivers, and I just started breaking all of them, not from my muscles or power, but from his inability to assemble them. And assembling a golf club is not that complicated. So I just started doing it myself out of necessity because I couldn't afford any more broken drivers. And I kind of just followed the traction and where I saw things happening. So my buddy's like, "Can you make me one?" I'm like, "Sure, why not?" And then I had this feeling, and there was no goal. It's just fun. So I made a website, and it was so terrible. This is 2012. So making a website was much harder. I don't even remember how we took credit cards back then. Well, it didn't matter because I didn't sell anything for 6 months. But I had like a cartoon character on there. It was awful. But I'll never forget my first, I would say, moment of traction, which I was on my boat, which was not a yacht, on Lake Champlain in Vermont with my wife. And I get an email. And it was an order from my online store when I was physically on the boat. So I wasn't at work. I wasn't in front of my computer. And I got a ding that was an order. And that was my first epiphany. And all I said was, let's do more of that. And I was a slow learner. I mean, I did all the wrong things for many years. I was assembling clubs myself, shipping clubs myself. I was working 20 hours a day, 7 days a week with a newborn, which I don't recommend. And just trying to follow the traction, like, okay, this is going well. We're starting to sell some, what do we do next? And it's like, it's just, which rabbit hole do you go down? And I remember when I started selling like a handful here and there a month, I just had this vision of making my own product. And I called up a buddy of mine from University of Vermont, where we both went to school. He graduated in 4 years. It took me about 5. So I wasn't a great student, but he's like, you should, and we were in the frat together, whatever. He's like, why don't you call UVM and see if they'll design you a product? And I was like, okay. So I called him up. I was like, you probably don't remember me. I barely graduated. But I heard you have, I want to design a product. And they said, yeah, every year we've got an engineering program you can apply for called Capstone, which I didn't even know existed. And I applied, and I worked with 4 students and 4 seniors. And we designed a golf driver for a year. And I just started documenting what I was doing. You know what I mean? It wasn't like, I'm going to do X and sell Y. It was just like, hey, I'm doing this because I want to do it. And I see some traction, and it worked out. I cashed my 401k. Again, I don't know why. A lot of these things were just, I was seeing what was happening. It was feeling good, feeling right. And I ended up making like a very small order of our first batch. And we did a pre-order, I think. I can't remember the days. And we did like 10K in a day. I said, let's do more of that. And really from there, it was just like continuing to document on Facebook. Facebook ads happened, so we did ads. Facebook video happened, so we did video. And I think one of the things not accidentally, that I saw the traction that we've continued our success is engagement. And here's the best example I can give for that. I made a video in my backyard while my kid was taking a nap where I hit a ball through a net and it sounds like a bomb goes off. And I just said, does your driver sound like that? And I boosted it for $300. And that video got 300,000 views, 10,000 comments. And I sat there on my BlackBerry until my thumbs were bleeding, replying to every comment. And did I think it was going to change the company? Was I going to sell 1 million clubs that day from that effort? No, but I saw people spending time to comment, and I just commented back. And that's how we built relationships one by one. So over 9 years, people feel like they're part of the brand. And we've taken that conversational commerce, I kind of call it, into our most effective channel, which is email. So we ask people questions like, hey, we're thinking about designing a 7-wood or a chipper. Which one would you buy, A or B? And just get their real feedback. And it does a couple things. It gets people involved in the brand. They get to help pick the products that will actually help you. And it makes email, which is a high revenue channel, a 2-way conversation, so that when you do have something to sell to them, they feel like they know you and your brand. And that's was just like one thing. We just kept seeing the traction and just kept on doing it. And it took me 2 kids to take the next steps, which is not work as much, because that was a really hard thing for me, was to let go, because I founded the company. And I'll close on this one part. But so my first kid, I was working 20 hours a week, 7 days a week. 20 hours a day, 7 days, like legit, every second working. Not healthy, don't do it. But I wanted to, I had to. And then when my second child was coming, I go, dude, I got to take 6 weeks off. And I took the time off before to prep for her coming, and sales went up or down. What do you think?
Up.
They went up.
Yeah, of course. Of course they did.
And it made me say, wow, I either am not important or I'm really not important.
Nah.
Either way, it forced me, again, a lot of my stuff was life events that changed business life, essentially what happened. So my second child allowed me to separate myself. And from there, I really almost went crazy with it, but now I only work legit 4 hours a week in the company, and I don't have many levers left to pull. You know what I mean? It's like,
I trust me, man. I get it. So there's a spiritual teacher I talk about a lot. The listeners of the show know that I talk about him a lot. His name's Ram Dass, and one of his big things coming back from India, he was a Harvard professor, and he had everything that you're supposed to have. He had the cushy job and whatever, and he took a bunch of acid with Timothy Leary. They went to India, met this dude. Anyway, his big thing was extricate yourself from identification with your thoughts, right? So most people can go, I'm not my fingernail. That's not what I am. I'm not a stupid fingernail. That's easy, right? And then you go, well, I'm not the hair growing out of my head either, am I? No. And then you go, well, I'm not my heart beating, am I? No. And then you get all the way to like, I'm not that thought either. Like I'm the witness that watches the whole thing, and I still have free will and I can think whatever I want. But the thoughts, there are thoughts that happen to me, right? And I took that spiritual concept, which I love, by the way. And the foundation of it is called Bhakti Yoga. You're supposed to love everything, every thought, every atom, every sound, everything. Love everything. Tell the truth. Love everything. Tell the truth. Everything and everyone. Anyway, so I extricated myself from the company, and I did that 15 times, dude. Like whatever, like I was doing reporting. I'm like, oh, I don't know if they're going to do a better job of reporting than me. And then you hand them over the baby. Like, dude, I suck at reporting. These people are amazing. I'm the worst at it, and they're so much better than me. And then it's like sales. Oh no, I couldn't give up sales. I'm so good at selling. Look at me. Look at this. Oh,
yeah.
like, you need to do that. And then pretty soon you're like, oh, whoa. It's like, what now? What? Now I host a show. You know what I mean? Because I enjoy it. Like
Yes.
this is fun. Like I don't know how you beat this. Like meeting incredible people with incredible stories, talking about whatever you want to talk about. It's amazing to me. So I'm right there with you, man. Extricate.
Tough to do. It's tough to do, and I think I don't know. I don't know if people just don't want to do it, but I talk to a lot of entrepreneurs that are, they get stuck in the day to day, and it turns into a job, and it can happen quick, and I've been fortunate that family kind of gave me that perspective, man, because, I don't know, but it's hard, man. We're getting deep today. I like it.
That's what we do on the show, man. Welcome to it. The other thing too is you're invited back as many times as you want to come back. So like 4 months from now, 6 months from now, we keep the dialogue going. I don't like feeling rushed in my conversation. So it's a 30-minute show, but I don't want people to feel like, oh, I need to like tell my whole life story now. It's like, no, just come back. So that's kind of the vibe. But yeah, like I kept doing that. And then I wrote a book and I did public speaking stuff, and now I'm doing the show. But yeah, it's amazing if you put faith in other human beings. There's this really good TikTok. This guy, I love this premise. He goes up to mansions or to people in ridiculously nice cars or whatever.
Yeah, I think I've seen this.
Yeah, and he says like, how do you make your money? Like, what do you do? And people love talking about that. Like this one lady was like, my mom was the first Black CEO of McDonald's. Like, they're cool stories.
Yeah.
Anyway, so he goes up to this dude. He's like, how'd you do it? And this guy's like, well, every time you pay for something at a hospital, I get a piece of that. He's like, well, how'd you do that? He's like, well, I have a patent for the process, right? And he's like, what words of wisdom? And I've heard this from a bunch of like 80-year-old dudes. They're all like, the people around you, you pay those people and you bring them along for the ride, and don't be greedy, share those profits, man, because they will lift you up. And that is for sure. First bonus I ever gave was 5,000, and she had no idea it was coming. I was like, here's $5,000. Happy birthday. Not like here's a $25 gift certificate to Red Lobster,
You did the Red Lobster thing, huh? Wow. 5 G's.
No, not the Red Lobster. I'm saying it's not the Red. You're messing with me. But yeah, so let's talk about that. Compensating these people, right? So what's your mentality on the folks that are allowing you to do what you do?
I have a interesting struggle with employees, to be candid. Like I believe in an outsource model for the most part in terms of siloed experts. So I do have 2 guys in house at BombTech where they're W-2 employees, and it's an interesting thing because most people outsource what I have in house. I almost have it inverted where everyone does customer service, outsource, really cheap, whatever. So my guys are in-house golfers, local in Vermont, W-2, full health benefits, salary, you know, which is like far more than you would normally pay for customer service, but
Bingo.
they are the reason that guys keep buying again and again. And like, because it's not easy to spend money at scale and get customers. So I think of every person that buys a club as an opportunity, and we truly thank them. So my guys make thank you videos. They make thank you calls. We do, you know, handwritten letters. And like, if someone calls in with an issue, or even not an issue, they have full, what is the word? Full a guideline to do the unexpected. Like that's what they literally, and I don't look at anything what they spend or don't spend or send free clubs, and it just wows customers. So over and over again, it makes the business easier to grow because guys are happy, and then they tell people word of mouth. So I kind of inverted it, and then I have all my experts siloed at agencies. So like I have a CRO agency, I've got my email agency, we've got an ad guy. And the reason I do that is not because I don't want them, you know, in-house, but I feel like they can see many more accounts and actually perform better. And that allows me the freedom to not have to like directly manage those experts, and they kind of manage themselves, and allows me to not work all the time. So everyone's remote, it's all siloed, and
people listen to what he's saying. You know what I'm saying? Listen to it. Like we use a company called TextBroker for content, and I'm not ashamed of that at all. And we produce a lot of blog content because at the end of the day, we order $5,000 worth of content from TextBroker every month. And so we have a managed account. I can find a writer that writes anything you want, you know, like, oh, is it some weird meme coin? That's our newest client. It's called Floki. You want someone who understands Floki? Great, because I have a pool of tens of thousands of writers, you know, crypto experts to paralegals to whatever. And that's so much better than trying to hire 6 people in Las Vegas to just learn whatever it is that they're supposed to be writing about. That's like, you can't get ramped up fast enough. It doesn't work. And so, yes, I have a whole layer of employees that are like that. Outsource bookkeeping, outsource PR, outsource Google ads. And then, yeah, the core of my team is very similar to what you're doing, which is just, you know, it's funny to me as you were talking, I kept thinking of the correlations between spirituality, the spiritual path, and business. Like compassion, dude, you know, like actually being compassionate. Like some dude is upset with the club for God knows why. You know what I mean? He calls in and he's like expecting the fight, because that's what most people do.
right.
Like they expect the like, well, we're not going to do this and you're going to do whatever. And the dude's like, I'll send you 2. You want 2? Here's 2 or whatever. You know, like they have that. And this guy's like, what? And I'll stop on this as I blab a lot. I had
Let it roll.
Yeah, I had this dude, this teacher, AP English teacher named Mr. Peterson. Amazing teacher. He cut a little rubber duck in half and glued the feet to the ceiling just to make it seem like you were underwater. Like this dude was amazing. Like just messing with your perception and stuff. Anyway, he goes up to the chalkboard and he writes a circle, and then at the top of it, he puts a little mark and he writes love. And he says, "What's the opposite of love?" And everyone's like, "Hate." He's like, "No, apathy." And then right by love is hate. And he's like, when you love someone, like you have to consistently like push it to that side. So it's love all the time. But apathy is definitely the opposite. So if you have someone hate calling you because they're angry about something with your, you know, like you're close to them absolutely adoring you. You know, you're much closer than someone who doesn't even know who you are.
Right. That's true. That's an interesting perspective. I don't think I ever thought of it that way, but I mean, we do cherish opportunities to wow people, you know, and I wouldn't say it's easy per se, but the normal level of customer service and they just are so bad, you know, and we try to be actually good. And I've seen it time and time again. It's just also something to like feel good about, like, because a lot of times you get caught up in the P&L, the physical product and like the brand, but end of the day, it's just people buying from people, you know, and it's such a competitive space. You know, like Entrepreneur way back wrote an article. Not that I'm saying I'm cool because an entrepreneur. The article was, they're like, cool story, good product, not going to make it.
What? They wrote that about your stuff?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of the reality. It's an oligopoly. It's you know, there's 4 or 5 brands that own 99%. So to even get in and have even a tiny sliver and to become a brand in, we've sold, I think, over 100,000 customers or something, to even have any clubs out on the golf course is kind of, because I didn't start with the expectation of selling $1 worth and have my own brand. So it's kind of, I don't know. I think if you come at business with that lens, you can do things like that. And it's, and it's okay. And some days lately, the more mature I get in business and the older I get, I sometimes lose that, like recently I'm like, I just look at the P&L and then I look at, the forecast, and it's like, it's sometimes I like want to get in there and get my hands dirty and get creative. And, and I think that's may at least for me over 9 years, the natural curve of where the business is. I was all hands on, doing too much, doing all the wrong shit. Literally everything in the business I did, which I shouldn't be doing. Now it's like I'm doing only the stuff I should be doing, but am I missing some of the original fire? A little bit, yeah. So I think that's kind of why I have another company now, because it was one of those things where I saw traction. People were messaging me for help with their brands, and my first employee really runs that company. I just help him. So it's almost like by me coaching him, it's like he's making more money than he could ever as an employee of mine. And I feel like that at this point almost gives me more, what's the word? I don't know, tangible like feeling, because it's like we're still growing. I'm helping him. It's not just me. You know what I mean? So and the business is amazing in the fact that it's so hands off and easily could be transferred or bought or whatever. But yeah, it's just, I think, the natural path, and I'm getting old, and it's 9 years, and just crazy to kind of look back. Sometimes I forget the early days.
It's funny because I had like a 4 month sort of moment where I was just like, I'm not doing anything. And it's so funny because that's what I wanted. I'm
Right.
like, it's like, and then I got to a point where like I'm electric longboarding, I'm doing my show, and then it's like one, and I'm like, what am I doing? And that's the sort of there's an ancient Chinese philosophy called Wu Wei, which translates as non-doing or effortless doing. And it was known to be a very effective methodology for leadership for emperors. Okay. Like these are the top of the top of the top of the top. And the basic idea was if you do anything at all, there are going to be tons of ramifications, right? Because you're so powerful. You find yourself in the seat of such power that sometimes doing nothing is by far the hardest thing to do, right? So that's one translation of that. It's hard to do nothing. And people are like, I just watch Netflix. It's like, no, trust me, when you have staff and you've got people's lives on your, like you're paying for payroll and they just had a baby and you want to do insurance and you think about it, like, it's not as easy as it seems. It's, it seems so simple. And then the other translation of it is completely different, which is no preference. And so it's sometimes translated, the seventh patriarch of Zen was quoted as saying, the great path is not difficult for those who have no preference. And the idea there is take LeBron James or like Steph Curry, for example. When you look at a plot of where they take shots, there is no preference. It's not left. It's not right. It's not the 3-point line. It's not going to the rim. It makes no difference to them. It's where the defender isn't, right? That's where they're going to take their shot. Like they'll find your weakness because you can't be like, oh, he's going to go to the right because he favors the right. He doesn't favor the right. He doesn't care. That's incredible, like high level leadership. So combining those two concepts, it's sort of like, new business, not new business, growth, not growth. You find yourself in this, it's like a Zen state, and it's wild for people that have only been employees and never played at that level. But for those of you that are interested in doing that, I'm telling you, go back and listen to what Tyler just got done saying in terms of giving people the responsibility, the customer service element that he talked about earlier. I mean, these are real gems. And if he had just done the one company, you could a little bit of grain of salt, but he's on round 2. So, I mean, there's some real wisdom coming out here.
I'm getting lucky time and time again. No, I think the agency was just, it was a moment of traction. I think I don't think I'm really great at much in terms of business wise, other than if there's traction, just kind of rolling with it and seeing what happens. And that was really what happened when, I had like a couple case studies come out on BombTech. and people would message me like, "Hey, can you help me with my e-commerce brand?" And I would just say no. And then my first employee, and like to expand upon him a little more, like he is the most unique individual ever. My first employee, but he would literally like leave the bars. He was like so young at 2 a.m. and text me a screenshot of like conversion rate on the website because he was
He's a
like,
good employee.
oh, I mean, he. I don't even know how to quantify him in the grand scheme of employees. He just was always thinking about it, loved it. It wasn't work for him. It was just like his life. So when he said to me, and he was doing all my email, and we were killing it, and then Clavio, who's an email provider, did our case study. He's like, "Hey, I'm doing all your email. Do you mind if I help them?" I said, "Dude, I want nothing more in this world to help you." And that was the truth because he had helped me like at such crazy times and for years. I was like, "Of course." So I just said, "Hey, go see if you can help them." And he went and he doubled their revenue in like 30 days. I said, let me know how it goes. And he came back. He's like, "Dude, I doubled the revenue." I'm like, "Well, what do you want to do?" And he's like, "I want to do more of this." And then we literally sat down and we essentially wrote out a business plan for him and how he was going to exit my company and essentially start his own. And I would be his, I'm not in that business, e-com growers day to day, but I'm just his coach and try to help him with systems, get him resources. And I'm just like his, he needs a call, doesn't know what to do or has a question. I'm just his backboard. And I do podcasts like this, tell my story. And it's kind of crazy because he truly is the one that grew it. To have another income is another significant income. It's a very different business, but it was just a moment of traction and giving him, asking him what he wanted and trying to be a resource. And now we're 50-50 partners, and it's crazy, man.
Love
Totally expect it.
Yeah, dude, love everyone tell the truth. One of the fascinating things I find about you is a lot of people wouldn't say that they're working 4 hours a week. They would shy away from that. They would shy away from saying, and for people who are like feel like it's like a humble brag, trust me, it's not.
I
It's one of
wish, like,
the
it's a weird feeling for me not to go too deep into this, but it's like I do want to work more. And if they knew who I really was, like my brain never stops.
oh,
So like
dude,
when I had
amen.
when I had two kids, to go from 20 hours a day, legit doing tasks, like it was 20 hours a day, assembling, shipping, doing tasks, and thinking. Now I am always thinking about it, but I really like for my family, for my life. I had to separate it, and I almost do no real task anymore, but it's still my brain's still on. So I try to almost turn it off too, because you can be not working, but be thinking and not being present in the moment. And I think, I had to delete all the apps off my phone. I had to really be like, okay, this is, golf hat is on. Okay. And then even when I was like, this is a weird one. Like when I'm at home, I put on my dad hat. I'm not a owner of a business. I'm just dad. Or if I'm on the golf course, this is the real weird one. I tried to not make golf work because I hated it for years because it would turn into me doing Facebook, YouTube videos. And I was like, you know what? I need to have the business. I need to have golf as a real passion again, and then be a dad. And all three can be me, but I just need to be able to separate those. So like, yeah, I don't know if that makes sense, but that's how I try to do it.
I love it. We all have two minds. There's the mind that auto generates thoughts, and then there's the mind that reacts with those auto generated thoughts. And I identify as that essence, that free mind. But thoughts happen to me. I
Mhm.
assume they just happen to you. You're sitting there, you didn't ask for it. It's like your heart beating, or like you know what I mean? Like it's just gonna happen. Like thoughts
Yeah,
gonna,
yeah,
and then like you love it or you're afraid of it. You interact with it in some way, and then another thought comes, and another thought comes. Welcome to being human, right?
yeah.
Um, and I was reminded, and so yeah, when you're on the golf course, is that thought I should make a YouTube video, and you can love that thought and be like, oh, that's a beautiful thought. I'm gonna play the game anyway, and you make those choices right with that conscious mind as opposed to the subconscious. Like anyway, but I want to quick tell this story because I'm reminded of that employee of yours. Do you have a hard stop at 11?
I'm good. Let's roll.
And so anyway, there's a story called the Ramayana, which is like a Hindu story. Stop me if you've heard it. It's the story of Ram, who is in Hindu culture. There's bunches of avatars of God, like they're showing up all the time. You got Krishna, you got Rama, you got all these, So anyway, so Rama shows up, and Rama's this avatar of God, and his wife gets stolen by some evil demon called Ravana, and it's the story of him going to find her and getting his wife back, basically. And there's this monkey named Hanuman, and if you ever see Hindu pictures, you'll see shrines to this monkey all over the place. It's kind of like it's like Marvel, you know what I mean? All the universe with all these different like superheroes and stuff.
Okay.
So anyway, Hanuman gets his power from serving Ram, right? And so Hanuman has to like jump from the southern coast of India to the island of Sri Lanka, and he like jumps and he stops, and there's this serpent in the ocean that's like, I will not let you pass. Unless you go into my mouth. And so he shrinks, jumps into the serpent's mouth, jumps back out, and is like, okay, I was in your mouth. Can I keep going? The serpent's like, yeah. So he goes all the way to this castle where the princess, or the wife is being held. And he basically gets her back. And after all this epic struggle, and there's like a war and the whole thing, he goes to Ram, which is God. And he says, and Ram says, you did it. You know what I mean? You did the whole thing. I can't possibly thank you enough. I will give you anything, right? Like anything in all the universes. What do you want, Hanuman? And Hanuman says to Ram, he says, save me from the tentacles of egoism. And to me, if we look at each other as divine in some way, and I know this is like mushy, spiritual, whatever, but if we do that, service can be incredible. Right? Serving another person can be this beautiful path. You know what I mean? And so as someone who is being served, sometimes it's uncomfortable. Like literally in the Ramayana, Ram goes to this yogi and he says, give me a mantra. And the yogi's like, yeah, but you're God. Why am I giving you a mantra? It doesn't make any sense. He's like, and the yogi's like, oh, I see. Like, this is just the unfolding of your storyline in this incarnation. So sure, I'll give you a mantra. Here's your mantra, go. And of course it works and everything's great. So this sort of idea of looking at people and really loving and respecting them on just a profound level, because when I hear you talk about that employee, partner, friend of yours, I mean, you guys have a strong relationship. Like you don't like jettison him out of a company and get him to do his own thing and talk about him in that way unless you guys have a really strong bond. And so I'm reminded of the Ramayana and that sort of play on a fundamental level. And entrepreneurship so often gets boiled down to things that are not profound. It's sort of like, oh, he had a good idea and he marketed well. It's like, nah, dude, it's people. It's the fact that your thumbs were bleeding, responding to every comment. Like you're like, I understand what this post means. It's all these people showing me love. I can show love back to them, and these are the roots that will grow the tree, that will bear the fruit, that will be the thing that people want. This dream, the capitalist dream, basically. But the foundation of it is profound.
That, at least for my journey, was definitely organic. Moments of traction and just rolling with it, versus I think you lose. I never went out and said, hey, I want to profit this much. And I don't know how people do that for me, because I hear a lot of people like, oh, well, this is my example for this. It's like, well, leggings are trending. I'm going to go sell leggings. It's like, what do I know about women's leggings, dude? Like, yeah, I could go make some and sell and make a couple bucks, but that I never started with that. So I have a hard time talking with those that come from that lens of a business to profit, which is the goal of the business. But my start was just I was just doing it. So anytime people ask me a lot, what should I sell? What should I start? And I say, I don't know. What do you like? I just say, what do you do now when you're not working? You should try to do that. And that's really it. So like for me, like if I were to start another business, I already have, I'm actually not going to do it, but I have already 50 prototypes of skis that I've made because I love to ski. And I just thought it'd be cool to try different materials, different shapes, and I designed it. But I decided actually not to do that project because I didn't want to ruin skiing. And turn it into work. But I don't know. So like I have the full circle, at least for me, starting without an end goal in terms of revenue and income and profit allowed me to do stuff that I probably wouldn't do, and it didn't feel like work day to day. I think if I did women's leggings because they were hot and trending, it would feel like work every second of the day, and I would never get there or be able to talk about what we're talking about because I would know nothing about it. So I think, I don't know, do what you love and you'll be good, to go with the theme of this. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So to those out there that are feeling disheartened because they've done a few projects and they haven't worked, they're trying to make money. They can't figure it out. They can't, they swear they're doing the right thing. The clients aren't coming in and they're just feeling bummed out by the whole process. What do you say to those people?
Probably doing the wrong thing, because I never really had that moment because I was just working all the time, even when it wasn't good, because it was almost, I wouldn't say, yeah, it was fun because it was like I saw some action, I saw some traction, we had some sales, we had some feedback, so it was just a natural curve, I guess. And I think that's the biggest difference. They're like, hey, I'm trying to sell this product or make money doing this and escape my day job. I don't know if that's a big enough reason. I think the reason has to be like at your core. At least that's what I believe. It's got to be such a attractive thing you like and love to do, or hobby, or thing of passion, that it pulls you away from your job. It doesn't just replace it in terms of monetarily. Because for me, getting fired made me take that leap and give me enough time to do it. But it was never like, hey, I'm going to make more money here and not work. I just was liking it. You know what I mean? And I wanted to do more of it. That's all, like, on a simple way.
Mm-hmm. So to what degree do you think that you were meant to get fired, or do you not believe in any of that? Do you think that the universe conspired to fire you and that it was a blessing in disguise, or do we live in a chaotic and random universe and it just so happens that
No,
you used your
I don't know. It depends on what day you talk to me. To ask that
October
question.
22nd, Friday?
I mean, I think definitely happened for a reason. I think a lot of things happened I think the one example I think about this was freshman year of high school, when I was playing football for 6 years. Dad was the coach, and I was going to play football in the fall. And the year I was going into freshman year, they switched golf. I was going to play football in the fall, ski in the winter, golf in the spring. And they switched golf and ski, or football and golf. And I decided to play golf over football, which I was not as good. But I loved it. And if I never made that move, maybe I would not be where I am today. So I think everything happens for a reason. I think that was just one of the steps for me. And all the epiphanies I had, the first sail on the boat, if it wasn't on the boat, maybe I wouldn't connected that as such a epiphany moment. My kids being born and the timing of those. I think, yeah, it all happens for a reason. I think the question is, are you listening? It's like, are you listening to what's happening, and are you doing something about it? I think that's all I've done is, like, I see something. Again, like, not that I'm anything great or special. I just see something. I'm like, oh, and maybe it's my ADHD. And I'm just like, all right, I'll just do that. And it's kind of like, it's led me to where I am, versus like, if I had a specific singular goal with a monetary objective, and I have to be able to quit my job in this much time, a finite time, I don't know if it would ever happen. You know what I mean? So I think let things happen and just look for opportunities when they arise. And I think that's the difference.
Yeah, I'm reminded, to make one more Mario analogy. It's like the stage that Mario is in is designed to do something to the player. It's
Right.
designed, like, those first stages are designed to get you to learn to jump and avoid the pits and don't get hit by the thing. And then the following stages are like, okay, how much dexterity do you have? Do you have patience to wait for the little rampy thing coming up? Or are you just going to run through and die right away? Like it
Right.
teaches you things like patience, because that's the stage you're on. And I feel like life is just like that. Like, I'm playing this avatar and this stage looks a certain way because it's designed to be like, no, stupid, love everyone, no exclusions. That's where I'm at. I'm in this sort of like, like infinite patience, love everyone. How do you do that? Because, revenge is like drinking poison, expecting the other person to die. Hate is like that. It's like, I'm doing myself a disservice if I have any ill will towards anyone at any point for any reason. It's not helping me at all. And so it's actually really selfish to love everyone, which is the wild paradox of, that sort of world. So anyway, yeah. So I'm getting Skype messages from staff and stuff, so I gotta go. But so much fun. Love to have you back on the show. I want to make sure that you have a chance to be a selfish capitalist here and just let folks know where to go, what to do, where to buy from you, etc. So why don't you take a minute for that?
Oh yeah, sure. If you golf, it's BombTechGolf.com. If you're an ecom brand, love to help you out with our email marketing at ecomgrowers.com. I've been on LinkedIn a lot. I'm not sure why. I'm seeing some traction there, just having fun. So Tyler, Sully, Sullivan over at LinkedIn.
All right, beautiful. Ladies and gentlemen, this one is maybe one you want to listen to more than once. I interview a lot of folks. Tyler's got a lot of really good pieces of wisdom that is worth a second pass. So if you've enjoyed the episode today, share it with a friend, why don't you? If you want to join us for the live show, youtube.com/senditrising is how you do that. If you want to find us on iTunes, Spotify, or the 13 other podcast platforms that we are available on, that's Marketing as a Foreign Language, MFL, not NFL, MFL, Marketing as a Foreign Language. You all know the drill. We'll see y'all next time. Thank you, Tyler.